Oh. Imagine, imagine that you have a clay pot. Imagine that you have a clay pot right in front of you. Imagine the clay pot is right in front of you. Imagine that you have a clay pot and the clay pot is sitting right in front. Somebody appears in the vicinity and asks you to look for the clay. Somebody appears in the vicinity and asks you to look for the clay. You go around and you look for the clay. You go around and you look for the clay. You keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. But but clay is nowhere to be found. Then you found the pot. When you found the pot, you found the clay itself. You keep looking and looking for the clay, but you couldn't find the clay anywhere. But as soon as you found the pot, you found the clay. All there, all there is to pot is the clay. If you are looking for the clay other than pot, then clay cannot be found because the pot is made out of the clay. The pot is made out of the clay. If you look for the clay, clay itself would nowhere to be found. It's basically the clay who has taken the form and the shape of the pot. It's basically the clay who has taken the form and the shape of the pot. In other words, is it fair to say that all there is to pot is the clay itself? In other words, is it fair to say all there is to pot is the clay itself? Now remember, that's the difference between the Atman and the Brahman. Here you are meditating on Brahman. Brahman is the clay itself. It's not possible for it's not possible for us to imagine a clay without the clay pot, because clay pot is made out of the clay. All there is basically to the pot is the clay. If there is no clay to begin with, it's not possible to have the pot. The clay and the clay pot basically and ultimately in the end is clay. It has taken the shape of the pot. You break the clay into pieces and make a powder of it. It comes back to its basic shape. Then you mix some water and you can shape it in a different pot shape. But in the end, you are changing the shape of the pot, the feature of the pot, because you have the clay. You can change it in any way you want it. You are not the pot which is changing the form. You are not the pot which is changing the shape. You are the clay itself. It's not possible to change the shape or the form without having the clay. You, the Brahman, or the ultimate, or the boundless, or the eternity, is the clay itself. It wants to know the different shapes and form, so it takes the form of the clay pot. The clay itself wants to know that how many form and shape clay may take. Clay is trying to know itself by taking different form and different shape. Meditate on the clay itself. Meditate on who is the knower of the thought. Meditate who is the knower of the thought. Do not get entangled, or do not get fascinated, or do not get overwhelmed by the content of the thought, no matter how severe the thought can be. Thought is not teaching you anything new. Thought is not telling you anything new. You are not the content of the thought, nor you are here to get fascinated with the content of the thought. You are not the thought itself, because you are the silent witness of the changing thoughts. I hope you understand what I'm saying to you. You are the silent witness. You are the silent spectator of the changing thoughts. You realize when you sit straight, just as I am sitting, that your thoughts are constantly changing. In order to accomplish or acknowledge the thoughts are changing, there has to be something more there which is beyond the thought itself. Otherwise, the change cannot be acknowledged. Otherwise, the change cannot be accomplished. What is that? What it is made out of? Which is the silent observer of the changing thought, which is the acknowledgement, and which is accomplishing the change in the thought. What is that? Who is that? What it is made out of? How does it taste? How does it look? How does it smell? How old it is? Is it coming from anywhere? Is it going anywhere? You realize that there is nothing but a sense of being self-aware. You realize that there is nothing but a sense of being self-aware. You realize there is nothing but a sense of being self-aware, which is aware by itself. That which is beyond, that which is ahead of the thought itself, that which is not being fascinated by the content of the thought, that which is not letting the thought pulling, that which is sustaining in the all changing reality and in the all changing thought and in the all changing mind, that which remains completely untouched, that which remains completely unaffected by the thought and by the circumstance, that which is a common denominator with it, which is running through the change and which is running through all the different circumstances, which is running through all the different experiences, which has never left you, which has never abandoned you. Meditate on it. Rest there. Once you tap on it, meditate on it, and rest there. Become the silent. Become the silent observer of the changing reality and yet remain totally unaffected and unchanged by it. Remember and realize the existence of anything. Remember and realize the existence of anything and everything depends on your existence. So do not feel overwhelmed by the changing reality and the changing thoughts. You are not the thoughts, you are not the content of the thought. All there is to the thought is the knowing of the thought itself. Is all there is to thought is the knowing of the thought itself. If there is no knowing of the thought, there is no thought. That is all there is to thought. So do not be overwhelmed by the thought. Do not be overwhelmed by the doubt or the fear in you. Realize that you are not coming from anywhere. Realize you are not going anywhere. Realize you are the consistency which does not get affected by the change, constantly changing reality, constantly changing experiences, and constantly changing thoughts. You are the one who remains totally unaffected because you are the one who has no form and no shape. So meditate on your fundamental nature. Suppose you are watching a movie. Suppose you are watching a movie and you are totally fascinated with the movie. Suppose you are watching a movie and you are totally fascinated with the movie. You are fascinated by what's going on in the movie. You are fascinated by the characters in the movie. You are fascinated by the scenes in the movie, the storyline of the movie, the dialogues in the movie, and everything that movie encompasses. You are watching that movie and you are constantly fascinated during the movie. You are so fascinated with the movie. You are so fascinated with the movie that you become oblivious and you become totally forgetful with your surroundings and you become totally oblivious and you become totally forgetful with your surroundings since you are watching the movie on the television in a room. Someone, maybe your friend or some other person, walks in the room and asks you, pay attention to the screen on which the movie is being played. You see, pay attention to the screen or pay attention to the movie screen on which the movie is being played. You realize in that very moment in time, you realize that there is a release of tension from the movies, from the movie, and the tension base and the focus goes on to the television screen. You you realize when you are asked by this person that pay attention to the screen itself on which the movie is being played. Suddenly there is a release of tension. There is a release of focus. Just like you release the two side of a rubber band that you were pulling. Just like you release the two sides of rubber band that you were pulling. There is a release of tension in the rubber band. Just like that, there is a release of tension. There is a release of your focus from the movie and it goes back to movie screen. You are not the movie itself. Are you? You are not the movie itself. You are not the characters, the story in the movie. You are not the storyline or the characters or anything about the movie. So, the way Cosmos is functioning, you are fascinated by the movie. The movie is the experience which is being generated. You see, the movie is the experience which is being generated, this three-dimension experience. You are the movie screen itself. You are the TV screen itself. You are the movie screen itself, and you are the TV screen itself on which the movie is being played. It's not possible to realize that there can be a movie without any type of screen. It is not possible to realize that there can be a movie without a television screen. It is very fair and it is very true to say all there is to the movie is the screen. Had there not been a screen, there would not be a movie. The existence of the movie itself depending on the existence of the screen. And as I have mentioned, you are the screen or the television screen itself. So instead of getting fascinated with the movie, which is this three-dimensional experience, meditate on the fact that you are the television screen on which the movie is being played and realize the immensity of yourself. Oh.